Welcome, listeners, to tonight's broadcast. Tonight is no ordinary transmission. This frequency hums with whispers of the unknown, echoes of the classified, and tales that should have never been recorded. Tonight is the SCP Foundation, an organization shrouded in secrecy, tasked with securing, containing, and protecting the anomalous. But what happens when the containment fails? If you have stories of the strange, the unexplained, the SCPs that haunt your imagination, don't be afraid to share. Just remember, this is your host, broadcasting from everywhere and nowhere. Welcome to the anomaly. Now, on our first story tonight, we will be reading about SCP-610, the Flesh That Hates. Now, before I get into the story, I want to say that I've had some thoughts on if there's actually such anomalous creatures or beings out there. Not exactly these ones per se, just thoughts, because, you know, secrets and all. Anyways, let's jump right into it. Once again, this is SCP-610. If you are hearing this, don't go to Siberia. Don't listen to the rumors. Don't follow the strange reports. Burn every map. Destroy every GPS coordination. Or coordinate? There we go. Coordinate. Because SCP-610 is still out there. Still growing. Still hungry. As part of Expedition 4, one of the last teams the Foundation sent in before they sealed the region off for good. Our mission: collect samples, gather intelligence, find survivors. But there were no survivors. Now, before I continue, I've read up on this SCP a while back, and it's creepy. It's a creepy concept, very creepy. Mostly just it being a living organism of nothing but flesh, muscle, and whatnots. We approach a quarantine zone by helicopter, flying low over the frozen wasteland of southern Siberia. At first, everything seemed normal. A few abandoned villages, some collapsed houses, miles of untouched snow. But then we saw the red. It wasn't blood. It was moving. If I saw that from a helicopter, for one, that has to be a large thing to be able to see something like that. And for it to be moving, I would probably would have told the pilot to turn back around. The first village, forgive me for not being able to pronounce this, Tobolsk 3, whatever that is, was covered in it, pulsing, cancerous growths, stretching over rooftops, flesh-like tendrils, twisting around the telephone poles, entering buildings reduced to mounds of living, breathing tissue. And in the middle of the town square, something stood up. It looked human. At first, arms, legs, a head. But as we got closer, we saw extra limbs. The face pushing through its skin, mouth frozen in silent screams, fingers twitching from impossible places, and it was watching us, waiting. Now that's another thing. Why I would say have the pilot turn around. Because if I saw something like that just standing up and staring, I can't even tell if it would be staring. But for one, why? I come on now. It's common sense to not do something like that, but okay. You do you. We landed a mile and moved in on foot. Fully sealed in hazmat suits, the team was on edge. We knew how 610 worked. Hazmat suits, I don't believe would actually help you in this case, but okay. Once you touch the infested tissue, it's over. Once it touches you, you stop being you. At first, it's just a rash, a tingling under the skin, then your flesh warps, your bones twist, your body betrays you. And by the time you realize what's happening, it's too late. We stuck to the plan, no direct contact, no unnecessary risk. We only needed one sample. Dr. Kowalski took out his scalpel and carefully sliced off a piece of pulsating tissue. It didn't bleed, it just shuddered. Then the screaming started. Not from us, from the buildings. If I started hearing screams from a building, first thought, run, drop everything while I'm doing, and just run to the evac. Why would I be standing around? The walls began to shift, stretching towards us. Mouths forming where windows used to be. Arms bursting from the ground. We ran. Walski tripped. Before we could grab him, the ground opened up. 100 hands reached out, pulling him in. His helmet came loose. He had just enough time to scream before his face melted into the mass. We kept running. We barely made it back to the helicopter before the infection reached the tree line. As we lifted off, I looked down and saw them. Hundreds of things, half-formed, twitching monstrous, or monstrosities. Okay, there's some typo there from the studio. Staring up at us, and in the center of it all, something huge was rising from the village. Something with too many eyes, too many mouths. Something that had once been human, but wasn't anymore. You'd think, that you'd have to think that probably something like that actually existed. It'd have to have gathered so much mass, but just body mass or just any kind of mass to form something as large as that. Still disgusting. The Foundation burned everything, the village, the trees, the entire region. Didn't matter. 610 can't be destroyed. We only slowed it down. It's still out there, spreading under the ice, waiting for some idiot to come looking again. And when they do, the flesh that hates will be waiting. Now, that's the end of that story. And my thoughts on it, and I've kind of said it through most of this story, is that if there was such a thing out there, for one, I think a lot of people would know of its existence, no matter how hard these SCP personnel try to hide it. With the modern day contraptions that people have these days, it's kind of hard to hide things. At least you'd think so, but who knows? There may be something out there like that. Now then, on to the next one. SCP-106, the Old Man. Before I start on this, my one thing is that this would probably make me kind of be weary of old people. If this was an actual thing, I would be weary of people. Of old people. Not just of people. Of old people. Now then, let's begin. I don't know how much time I have left, so if you're listening to this, stay away from Site-19. Forget everything you think about, or think you know about the Foundation. They tell you can contain these things. They have protocols. They are lying. Because SCP-106 is not contained. Not really. They call him the Old Man. A joke, right? Some ancient creep locked away in a cell? No. He's not human. He's not alive. He's something else. And I watched him drag a man to hell. Being dragged to hell would be one reason why I probably would be weary of old people. I was stationed at Site-19 as a security detail, just a regular night shift, checking containment, watching monitors, waiting for my break. Then at 02:230 hours, the alarms blared. Containment breach, SCP-106. I thought, that's impossible. His cell was one of the most reinforced in the site. A lead-lined steel box surrounded by floodlights and electromagnetic disruptors, designed to keep him inside. But the screen showed nothing, just an empty room. A gaping black hole in the floor. He was out. I grabbed my rifle and ran, heart pounding, ears ringing from the sirens. Over the radio, I heard screaming. Sector 5, I was in Sector 4. I turned the corner and saw Corporal Evans. A guy I ate lunch with every day, crawling on the ground. His legs were gone. Not severed, not bleeding, just gone. Like they had rotted away. And standing over him, half in the wall, half out, was 106. First and foremost, I am curious on how that would feel, having your legs just gone. not actually, you know, uh, no bleeding, not being severed, just gone. That kind of just makes you wonder how would that. Well, at least it makes me wonder how that would feel. I never actually want to experience it myself, but it is creepy. I had seen the files. I knew what he was. A rotting humanoid corpse covered in black tar-like slime. His eyes? Empty sockets. In his mouth, I swear to God he was smiling. Evans tried to scream, but his throat collapsed into mush. The flesh around his mouth dissolved to liquefying, for something unseen was eating him from inside out. He reached out for me, and 106 turned to look at me. That smile widened. I ran. I didn't even think. I just ran. I made it to the lockdown doors seconds before the blast shutters came down. I turned just in time to see Evans disappear. Not die, disappear. 106 reached down, touched his chest with one rotting black finger, and he just sank into the ground. Gone. Into a pocket dimension. Someone with the capabilities of opening a pocket dimension would be... one thing, but a hellish pocket dimension is another. Would I ever want power like that? Probably not the hellish part, but being able to open a small pocket dimension probably sounds interesting. You ever heard what happens when 106 takes you? You don't die. Not right away, that is. He plays with you. You get dropped into a rotting black void, where time doesn't work right, where you can hear things moving in the dark, but you can't see them, where the walls bleed, and the air burns your lungs. Most people never come back. The ones that do, they're never the same. Their skin rots, their eyes sink in, they scream until their vocal cords snap, and then they just die, like they were never meant to leave. An hour later, 106 returned to his cell, just walked back in like nothing happened. That's the thing about him. He doesn't escape to break free. He does it because he wants to, because he's hungry. They erased all records of the breach. Evans never existed. They tell me to forget. I won't, because I still wake up at night sweating, smelling rotting flesh and black slime. And sometimes I hear something dripping in the dark, like something is waiting, watching, smiling. Again, like I said, if this would be, if this thing actually existed in our world, I would be fearful of the elderly from this point on. But I'm glad it doesn't. At least I hope it doesn't. Yeah, that's all. That's creepy. But we are gonna probably. Let's see. Let me look over the. We got a couple more stories. 2 more before tonight. Before the broadcast ends tonight. But for now, folks, it seems even a broadcast full of anomalous oddities needs a moment to catch its breath, so sit tight, pour yourself a cup of something strong, and to let the nerves settle. Remember, in this world of things that go bump in the dark, it's best to keep your wits about you, and if you got an SCP tale of your own rattling around in that noggin of yours, don't be shy. Drop it in the chat, and who knows? We might just shine a little light on the dark corners of the unknown, but for now, take a deep breath, stretch those legs, and enjoy the intermission. Just don't wander too far. You never know what might be lurked beyond the static. Alright, gather around, ladies and gentlemen. The lights are low, the air is thick with mystery, and we are turning back into the strange and the explained. Hope you stretched those legs, refilled your drinks, and made sure nothing followed you back from the dark, because now we return to the tales of anomalies, shadows in the static, and things that don't quite belong in this world. Or maybe they do. Now then, let's get back to our list of stories. Who do we want to continue on with next? Here's one. And I think a lot of people know this one. At least I hope you do. SCP-096, aka the Shy Guy. Now I've looked around on newspapers and whatnot, and I've heard of this SCP from time to time, and it's caught my attention. For something like this to exist, especially with photos and drawings of this thing out there in this world, it's kind of hard to not think that this thing would be, if this thing actually existed, I think everybody would know it. Anyways, let's jump right into this. I used to work at the Foundation, not high up, just a low-level guard stationed at Site 19. That site again. I wonder how common that site is. My job was simple: patrol the halls, check the monitors, report anything weird, which at the Foundation was everything. But nothing prepared me for 096. They call it the Shy Guy. We weren't allowed to look at its face, ever. Not in person, not on screen, not even a drawing, because the second you did, you were dead. I heard rumors from the other guards. They said 096 doesn't attack out of rage, or hunger, or instincts. It attacks because it's afraid, like it's ashamed that someone saw it. They said there was no stopping it. I thought it was just talk, until that night I saw it move. Now, before continuing, it makes you wonder if what would make something like this exist? What would have to happen to have something like this exist in our world? Especially something that doesn't need to eat. You think everything would need to eat at some point. So, something like that probably would, need to at some point. Okay, so, where was I? Right here, here we go. It started with a siren, a deep wailing alarm that echoed down the sterile white halls of Site 19. I barely had time to grab my rifle before the intercom flared up. Containment breach in Sector 3, Mobile Task Force, ETA 10 en route. I was in Sector 4, again with that same sector. Did our last reader was the same sector with him? One hall away, my radio crackled. Do not engage SCP-096. Repeat, do not engage SCP-096. Then I heard it, a scream high and humane, a mix of agony and fury. Then thudding, something massive slamming into steel. I turned the corner just in time to see the door buckle inward, like something inside was tearing it apart. Boom! The metal snapped like paper, then I saw it. Okay, first and foremost, what did you make the doors out of that'd make it just easily snap if it was made out of metal, for one? And two, how strong do you have to be to do something like that? It was thin, almost skeletal, with long, gangly limbs and pale stretched skin. Its face was buried in its massive hands, shoulders shaking. It was weeping. Behind it, two dead guards lay torn apart. Then I noticed the third one. He was still alive, barely breathing, clutching a crumbled photograph. I didn't even have to ask. He's seen it, and 096 knew. The crying stopped. It turned toward him. Even though I only saw the back of its head, my whole body went cold. The guard barely had time to scream before 096 moved. 1 second, it was hunched over. The next, it was on him. It makes you kind of, I'm curious, how does this thing know that you're staring at a photo of it, or a picture, or a drawing of it, for that matter? And if you're looking through like a one-way glass, how does it do that? Does it have a third eye, sixth sense, like echolocation? I've seen wild animals tear into meat before. This was worse. It didn't eat him. It didn't kill him fast. It ripped him apart. Bone snapped. Blood sprayed the walls. His screams lasted longer than they should have. And then, it stopped. 096 froze, hunched over the body, twitching, breathing, ragged. Then it turned back to the wall and sat down. I don't know how long I stood there, too afraid to move. The MTF arrived minutes later, fully armored, visors down, weapons primed. They didn't shoot, they didn't need to, because 096 was back to weeping. The second no one was looking at it, it just stopped. Like none of it had never happened. The site was locked down for weeks. They said the last victim had seen 096's face on accident, some old photo in a file. Didn't matter when or where, 096 found him. It always finds them. And me? I transferred. I got away as far away from that thing as I could. But some nights I still hear that horrible, broken sobbing, and I pray to God that no one ever sees its face again. And it's right there. My thoughts on that. I'm probably, first and foremost, why sign up for the SCP? Why even sign up to do any of this stuff? It's just way too creepy. Yeah. There's not much else I could say on it besides the fact that something like that, having the kind of strength and break down metal doors, or just having them collapse inwards is something just out of this world crazy. But, oh well. I guess that's it on that one. Let's see, do we have one more? Let's see. We got to go through our list, and it looks like someone from the studio is sliding me a quick paper. Okay. That is actually a good idea. Have I misplaced some of my papers? I do have one. I guess until I can find my papers again. I do have one. I was gonna save this for one of our not so, fictional nights. But I cannot find the others. I cannot find the other papers for one of the other SCPs. So I'm going to throw in a bit of non-fiction in here just to kind of close up tonight's broadcast. And we are doing a one-off. It looks like a haunting this time around. It's a short one, but this one should clean up the missing space for tonight. So this one is about a haunted house called The Thing in the Basement. Now this one didn't leave a name for the credit, so just like some of the others, this one's anonymous as well. This one doesn't even have, this one has no name anywhere. Alright, let's begin. I grew up in a house with a basement no one used. It was always cold even in the summer, and at night, if you stood at the top of the stairs, you could hear something moving down there. My parents never acknowledged it, they just told me to stay out. One night, when I was around 13, I woke up freezing. The blankets had been pulled off my bed. Then I heard it, a slow creak, the basement door opening. I couldn't move, I couldn't breathe. Then footsteps, slow, heavy, coming up the stairs. I squeezed my eyes shut, praying it was a dream. Then I felt it, something cold brushed against my face. I screamed and the footsteps vanished. The next morning, my parents finally admitted it. Years ago, before we moved, a man went missing in that basement. They never found his body, and they never sealed the old well beneath the floor. Even though that was a short one, that was still creepy nonetheless. If I was in their shoes, I would have probably wanted to know anything and everything about the house I would be moving in. Because doing something like that would absolutely be traumatizing for me as a child. So, yeah. Maybe next time tell me if something happens like that. But anyways, That ends, that takes up the last slot for tonight. So, let's see. Yep, just making sure. And I still can't find those papers. Anyways, and just like that, the last flicker of the neon sign is in a foggy alleyway. Our time tonight has come to an end. We've delved into the unknown, danced with the eerie, and tuned into the static of the strange. But don't fret, dear listeners, for the airways never truly go silent. The stories linger, whispering in the dark, waiting for the next time we gather round. You've been a fine audience, sharper than a gumshoe on a case. But now, the clock strikes late, and it's time to let the mysteries rest. At least for now. So sleep tight, keep one eye open, and remember, the signal is always out there, waiting to be heard again. Until next time, folks, this is your host, Ryder, signing off.
Today, just 7. We want to say goodbye.